Okay, I'm not going to recap what we covered last time because when we resume, he's only going to recap it. So it will just get translated anyway.
किया जा सकता है, ये रोकने के लिए ये अवश्य में प्रस्ताव है, कैसा रोकेगा उसके बारे में आगे अपन आगे चलेंगे.
So how can this be stopped? That is the destruction of the planet through global warming. That is something we will discuss further.
अभी अपन इस मुद्दे पर पहुंचे हैं, जो कुछ भी विज्ञान क्या है, तकनीकी संबंधी जो प्रौद्योगिकी प्रक्रियाएं रही है.
So up till now, we've reached this topic where all this scientific, and what I mean by what scientific is, all the technical procedures involved in industrial production.
इसको चलाने के लिए ईंधन व्यवस्था में जितने भी कोयले से भूमिगत कोयला और तेल को ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा उपयोग किया गया.
In order to run these industrial processes, it has been subterranean coal and oil that has been used in the vast majority.
इस मुद्दे पर ध्यानाकर्षण करने के लिए प्रयत्न किया कि कोयला ही एक ऐसा वस्तु है और पेट्रोलियम पदार्थ ही ऐसा एक वस्तु है जो ये धरती में जो ताप को पचाने की कार्य करते रहते हैं.
So I have attempted to draw attention to the fact that coal and oil are the only such substances that are involved in digesting the heat within the Earth's surface. Hi Prachi, you're just in time. We only just started.
Oh, really? Wow. I thought better late than never. So I just came in.
Hi, Prachi.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
ये विज्ञानी लोग भी समझ गए होंगे. हम जब से विज्ञान युग शुरू हुई तब से इसी पदार्थ के ऊपर ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा ध्यान दिए.
And this is something even the scientists would have understood by now. And ever since the scientific age has started, this is the substance that we have paid most attention to.
और इसी को शोषण किया.
And it is this that we have exploited the most.
तो इसी से ये वस्तु मैंने शायद धरती का ताप बढ़ा है, इसको कैसा समझा जाए, इस बात पर भी एक बार सोचा जा सकता है.
And it is because of this that the temperature of the earth has risen. That is also something that we can think about.
ये तो विज्ञानियों के कथन के अनुसार धरती के वातावरण में जो निश्चित जो गैसीय पदार्थ नष्ट हो गई, ये भी बताते हैं.
And this is something that is that has even been declared by the scientists, that the atmospheric gases of the earth have been depleted. He says something along those lines, that certain atmospheric gases on the planet have been depleted.
वो जौन समाप्त हो गई, ऐसा भी बताते हैं.
And some of them have even finished. Ozone समाप्त हो गई. And ozone has also been depleted.
दूसरे ओर ये भी बताते हैं कि धरती का ताप बढ़ती जा रही है.
And on the other hand, they also share that the Earth's temperature has been rising. So scientists are sharing that certain atmospheric gases of the Earth have been depleted, such as the ozone layer. And on the other hand, they're also saying that the temperature of the Earth has been rising.
ये बता रहे हैं धरती का ताप बढ़ने का परिणाम में दक्षिणी ध्रुव उत्तरी ध्रुव में जो कुछ भी जो पानी का बर्फ के रूप में जितने पानी है वो सब गलने की बात आती है फलस्वरूप समुद्र का पानी का सतह बढ़ने की बात आती है
And as a result of the rising temperatures, there is this talk of what will happen at the North and the South Pole. That is, all the ice over there will begin to melt from the rising temperatures, and that will lead to the rise in the sea levels.
ये सब पेपरों में वैज्ञानिकों के कथन के अनुसार ही है भला ये इससे पता लगता है भूमि का ताप
And all this is there in the newspapers for all to read as the statements given by scientists.
ताप बढ़ने का मूल तत्व जो यही कोयला और पेट्रोलियम पदार्थ का शोषण ही है
So this has been the major element behind the rising global temperatures, which is the exploitation of coal and oil.
इसको कैसा समझा जाए ये भी विज्ञानियों का कथन है जितने भी ताप है माने बाहरी ताप है उसको ज्यादा से ज्यादा जो अपने में आत्मसात पी जाने का जो गुण है वो कोयले में है ये बात को विज्ञान में पढ़ाई जाती है
So how will we understand this? And then this is also a statement by scientists that all the environmental heat that coal has the capacity to drink in. Literally, if I were to translate, that coal has the capacity to drink environmental heat or digest or take in environmental heat.
तो ये पर्याप्त है यदि ये नियम सही है तो धरती का ताप बढ़ने का आधार कोयला और पेट्रोलियम पदार्थ को निकालना ही साबित होता है
And if this fact is true, then it is established then that the reason behind the temperatures rising is the excavation of the coal and oil from the surface of the earth.
साक्षित होता है
This gets testified.
तो हजम होने की जहां तक बात है उसके बारे में मेरा सोचना और समझना ऐसे है धरती में मनुष्य को ये पाया जाता है ज्यादा से ज्यादा तापमान स्थली में भी आदमी निवास कर रहा है
So as far as this digestion of heat goes, how I see it, how I understand it is that humans today are found even in places which record the highest temperatures.
कम से कम तापमान स्थली में भी वो आदमी निवास कर रहा है
As well as in places that record the lowest temperatures.
इन दोनों जगह में निवास करता हुआ आदमी कम से कम एक 60 से 80 90 डिग्री की दूरी तक की दिखाई पड़ते हैं
And the human beings inhabiting both these kinds of places demonstrate that they are living in a difference of about 60 to 8 degrees centigrade temperature. So the difference between the highest places where where humans live and the temperature of the lowest the lowest temperature places that humans inhabit, that difference in temperature is about 60 to 80 degrees centigrade.
ऐसे जो न्यूनतम ताप में रहने वाले मनुष्य का टेम्परेचर भी उतना ही होता है अधिकतम ताप में रहने वाले मनुष्य का टेम्परेचर भी उतना ही होता है
Now, the temperature of the human being living in the minimum temperatures, the coldest temperatures, and the temperature of the human being living in the highest temperatures are both the same. The human body's temperature is the same.
इसको हम सब समझ चुके हैं।
This is something that all of us have understood.
इससे ये पता लगता है ताप अधिक न्यून होने मात्र से भी शरीर की ताप बराबर बनाए रखने के लिए शरीर में वो सब द्रव्य हैं जो जिससे ताप को संतुलित बनाने की कार्यक्रम को बनाए रखता है।
And from this, what we understand is that regardless of the fluctuation in temperatures outside, the body consists of all the substances necessary to regulate and balance out the internal body temperature.
ये बात हमको समझ में आता है। उसी प्रकार धरती भी अपने ताप को बनाए रखने के लिए धरती में ही निहित है सभी।
This is something that we can all understand. Similarly, the earth also, in order to maintain its temperature, in order to regulate its temperature, already consists of the substances that allow it to do this. Just like the human body regulates its own temperature regardless of outside fluctuations, he's saying even the earth is a similar system which has the substances that allow it to regulate the temperature no matter what the fluctuations may be.
द्रव्य दो धरती में निहित रहने वाले में से धरती का ताप को संतुलित बनाने की सर्वाधिक कार्य करने वाला वस्तु वह यही कोयला और पेट्रोलियम पदार्थ।
And of the substances that are present in the earth that facilitate this temperature regulation, the most prominent in this function is this coal and oil. They are the most prominent entities responsible for the temperature regulation on this planet, he's saying.
ये बात पता लगता है, सामान्य बुद्धि से भी पता लगता है।
So this is what we find out, even from a very general intellect, we can grasp this.
यदि ये समझ में आता है तो यही अंतिम निष्कर्ष निकलती है, इसको रोका कैसे जाए।
And if we do understand this, then the final conclusion that we come to is that how do we stop this?
रोकने के लिए भी ये हमारा सोचना ऐसा है, रोग है तो उसका दवाई भी है।
And for stopping also, how I think about it is that if there is a disease, then there is also a cure, a medicine.
और रोग नहीं है जो मृत्यु का कोई दवाई होती नहीं, हम लोगों का सोचना ऐसा है।
And if it's not a disease, well then there is no cure or medicine for death. That is how I think about it.
तो रोग है तो दवाई है, इस प्रकार से सोचा जाए तो इसका उपाय दिखाई पड़ती है।
So if we think about it as that if there is a disease then there is a medicine, then we can actually find, or we can actually then start to see the solutions, the remedies.
तो ये तो हमारे संपूर्ण ये धरती पर बहुत सारे नदियां आज भी जीवित हैं, बहते हैं। तो इन नदियों का प्रवाह शक्ति को नापने पर मैं समझता हूँ धरती में आदमी की जितना बिजली की आवश्यकता है उससे ये 50 गुना अधिक बल नदियों में दिखाई पड़ती है।
So first, if we calculate the flow rates of all the rivers that are still found on this earth, we find that if we were to convert that flow into energy, it adds up to more than 5 times the energy requirements of human beings.
इसको पहचानने की आवश्यकता है।
This is something we need to recognize.
प्रवाह बल,
The hydroelectric power.
प्रवाह में जो
Actually, the power that can be generated from flow. He is not specifying hydro over here.
बल माने बनी हुई है, उसको पहचानने की आवश्यकता है।
the potential that exists in flow is something that we need to recognize.
उसके आधार पर वो प्रवाह बल से चलने वाली बिजली संयंत्रों को तैयार करने की आवश्यकता है.
And on this basis, we need to then prepare equipment or machines that will run based on this basically hydroelectric power.
उससे जाल तो सब जगह में बची ही है, तो स्वाभाविक है तो पानी के बल से तैयार की हुई बिजली को जगह जगह में पहुंचाने की जरूरत है, पहुंचाने में.
And then from that, what we need to do is that we need to use this hydroelectric power generated from hydroelectric power, and then distribute it to all parts of the planet using the network that has already been established. So basically the network of energy transmission, the wire systems and the towers and all that. Not towers, it's basically wired, right? I'm not quite updated. I think across oceans they also have wireless transmission of power. I'm not sure. But yeah, he's saying so the network for transmission of power has already been laid by human beings. We just need to now, instead of using coal and oil generated power, we need to use that network to transmit hydroelectric power. This is old. I mean, this is an old video.
किसी को तो अभी पता है ही नहीं, तो जगह जगह में पहुंचाने की जरूरत है. पहुंचाने में किसी को तो अभी पता है ही नहीं, तो पहले से तमाम तार और लोहा बिछी है. इस बात को ऐसा सोचा जा सकता है.
And then transmitting it to various places, no one will face any big issue because already we have laid out the wires and the network of wiring all over the planet. So this is one way of thinking about it.
दूसरा अनिवार्य रूप में जो तेल से ही चलने वाली यंत्रों के बारे में कुछ होता है, तो ऐसे.
Secondly, about those equipments that run solely on oil or petroleum.
ऐसे यंत्रों के लिए ऐसी एक इंजन बनाने की आवश्यकता है जो वनस्पति तेलों से चल सके.
Now, for such equipment, we need to develop an engine that can function on what's it called? Vanaspati tel ho gaya you're muted.
Vegetarian oils.
Vegetable oils.
I guess that's I think there's like a technical term also for like castor oil based.
All non-crude oil, like all vegetable oil, plant-based oils are,
Yeah.
not.
But
like,
see,
I
they
think-
need to have high calorific values. So there are only certain that can match up to crude oil, of which castor oil is one. There's a word there, there's already been a lot of research on this. I've forgotten what the term is. But yeah, essentially vegetable oil. So we need to develop engine that can run on these vegetable oils.
तो जैसा देश देश में तैली वृक्ष तो होता ही है, उस तैली वृक्ष को अधिकाधिक लगाने की बात करना चाहिए. और धरती की सतह में जितना विस्तार है, धरती के अंदर कोई ऐसा विस्तार नहीं है. ये
So now every nation has several oil producing plants, and we should be planting large numbers of such oil producing plants. And the kind of expanse that we find on the surface of the earth is nowhere to be found below its surface. Obviously, the surface is going to have the maximum area compared to the layers below it.
जितना सतह में जितना हम तेल पैदा कर सकते हैं, भूगर्भ का तेल की आवश्यकता या उसकी उपज उतना हाई भी नहीं है.
So the quantities of oil that we can produce on the surface of the earth, that is beyond the comparison of what we can even attain from the subterranean layers. He's saying basically that because the surface of the earth is so much larger and the underground is much lesser in area, therefore we can produce much more oils on the surface than it is possible to produce from like subterranean layers. Of course, all of this is with certain like we've tried doing this with like massive plantations of palm oil trees and huge mega hydroelectric multi-purpose plants, and we've kind of bungled those as well. So, but of course, when he's talking about these solutions, it's important to remember that he's not talking about them from a capitalistic mindset in which we bungle even the simplest of solutions, in which we don't in which we lose track of all other systems that are dependent on the solution that we're trying to implement. These are all
that thing might be ethanol.
Ethanol is produced from oil, I think.
Ethanol is alcohol.
By gas made from corn, that's it.
From plants, sorry.
Ethanol based, but yeah.
Ethanol
is not an oil, but
ethanol.
No,
sorry, it's an alcohol.
More of an alcohol. Methanol, ethanol, all the oils, no?
Yeah. But they also have
can be used as a fuel. I've also read, she's correct.
Yeah. Ethanol has been used, and they've also produced car engines that run on various plant oils in India, in the US, I'm sure in other countries as well. It's just that it's not become widely accessible.
तो ये भी एक बात पर ध्यान देने की आवश्यकता है.
So this is another point worth paying attention to. The fact that we are capable of producing lots of oil on the surface of the earth also.
तीसरी मुद्दा जो सूर्य ऊर्जा के वो ध्यान आकर्षण लोगों का है भी, और भी ज्यादा तीव्रता से उस ओर ध्यान देने की आवश्यकता.
Thirdly, people are already paying attention to solar energy, but there is the need to pay even greater attention to that.
सूर्य ताप को और अपने व्यवहारिक संयंत्रों में, व्यवहारिक कार्यों में, यंत्रों में, संयंत्रों में लाने की उपायों को खोज लेना चाहिए.
We should quickly find ways to utilize the heat of the sun to run all our Vyavaharik. I suppose from Vyavaharik basically means just like behavioral. So I suppose what he's implying from that is that our everyday tools we use on an everyday sort of basis, not like large industrial equipment and machinery sort of stuff, but the kind of tools that we all use in our everyday lives. In those, we should come up with ways of utilizing solar power. So basically, a home can be run on solar energy. Maybe factories and railway stations or something like that can't be completely converted to solar as easily. And for those, we can use hydroelectric or vegetative oils. But for our more behavioral needs, we should come up with ways of converting them all to be solar powered.
इन तीन उपायों से मनुष्य को, मानव जाति को अभी जितना मानव जाति के पास आवश्यकता है तेल और बिजली की, उससे अधिक अपन धरती की सतह में पाने की योग आता है.
And with these three methods, we have the capacity to meet all the requirements of coal and electricity that we consume today without having to rely on coal and petroleum. So we have the capacity to produce as much electricity and oil on the surface of the earth as is required to meet all our energy requirements today. And this is when he was speaking.
धरती की सतह में प्रवाह शक्तियां, प्रवाह बल बनी हुई है. धरती की सतह में ही तेल स्वाभाविक रूप में पैदा हो सकता है. धरती की सतह में ही सूर्य ताप का उपलब्धि निरंतर बना रहता है। इस पर अपने को ध्यान देने की आवश्यकता।
On the surface of the earth itself, we have several sources of flow energy. So that could be hydro or wind. It is on the surface of the earth itself, we have the capacity to produce oil. And on the surface of the earth itself, we have an eternal source of eternal access of solar energy. So this is something worth paying attention to. And importantly, I find it important because I mean, this is slightly different from how I also approach these problems. I always focus when talking about environmental issues and energy issues, I usually focus on also reducing our consumption, because that is in itself quite, outlandish, the kind of energy we are consuming and for the kinds of things. But he is not actually leading with that. In fact, he has not mentioned righteous consumption, rightful consumption at all. He's saying however much we are already consuming, we can still meet that requirement with alternate sources. And we should be working towards fulfilling that. I suppose, I mean, I see some value in doing that because it is a mindset of abundance. It's not a mindset of reducing, because that already turns people off, like understanding and humane conduct and rightful usage and all that comes later. But this is like a very pressing problem. If we can just see that we can address it as we stand today, even with just technological changes, then that is also worth leading that discourse with. Also, another important thing I see in this is the fact that his whole discourse on this, on global, on temperatures, is not about carbon dioxide emissions, not about greenhouse gas emissions. It's about the self-regulatory mechanism, the temperature regulatory mechanisms of the earth, which is the coal and the petroleum. Whereas the prevalent discourse on climate change right now focuses heavily on the pollution aspect of using these fuels, not on the extraction aspect. So that is a major difference, because whether or not it's releasing carbon dioxide, first and foremost, we're depleting the substances that are making the earth capable of regulating its own temperatures. So carbon dioxide is secondary in this particular narrative.
Yeah.
सूर्य ताप का स्रोत धरती की किसी न किसी भाग में सदा सदा बनाए रहता है। ये इसको निरंतर हम प्राप्त करने की युक्तियों को सोचा जा सकता है।
I was wondering, then it hit me. He said, so the source of solar energy is always found in some or the other parts of this planet, which basically means some part of the planet is always exposed to the sun. The other part will have night, but some part will have day. And then he says that we need to figure out strategies for utilizing this solar energy that is always present.
ये इस ढंग से हम ऊर्जा संबंधी जो परेशानी है उससे मुक्त हो सकते हैं, और इसके लिए जो तेल और खनिज तेल और ये कोयले को उपयोग करने के जो अभी तक की धृष्टता किए हैं, उससे जो स्वाभाविक ये गलती से मुक्ति पा सकते हैं.
So in this way, we can rid ourselves of this problem of energy sourcing and the kind of exploitation that we have done from using coal and mineral oil. We can also free ourselves from that.
ये मुक्ति पाने की बात है. इस विधि से ये मुक्ति पाने की विधि भी रखी हुई है. अभी करना ना करना हमारे इच्छा पर निर्भर है.
So in this way, there does exist a way to free ourselves from this dependency. But now whether we do it or we don't is something that depends on us.
तो ये चीज सदा सदा जो अभी प्रौद्योगिकी संसार में जो दक्ष हैं जो धरती के अंदर से कोयला वगैरह निकालने के लिए इतना फौज खड़ा किए हैं, तो इन्हीं की काम है। इसके बदले में इसको तैयार करने की बात, जिम्मेवारी ऐसे ही आती है।
So that has always been the case, that the solutions exist, but whether we adopt them or not is up to us, and that has always been the case. And that is why all the experts who have set up these major infrastructure for extracting coal and mineral oil, it is up to them to also replace the same. I think that's what he said, no?
के बदले में इसको तैयार करने की बात,
Yeah, to replace them with these alternatives.
जिम्मेवारी ऐसे ही आती है।
That it is their responsibility then.
इन जिम्मेवारी को यदि निर्वाह करते हैं, हो सकता है तो हम धरती के साथ किए जाने वाले अपराध कार्य रुक सकते हैं।
If we carry out this responsibility, then it is possible that we can stop the crimes that we've been carrying out against this planet.
रुकने की बात ही सोचा जा सकता है। धरती अपने बलबूते पर कितना पुनः अपने को समर्थ बना पाता है, नहीं बना पाता है, ये बात को सोचने की बात।
And it is only after we stop that we can then think about how possible it is for the earth to once again replenish itself, or whether it will no longer be able to replenish itself. That is something that we will have to think about after we've stopped exploiting. So this is an approach to health also, right? It's that the body has its own mechanism of healing itself. See, if we're talking about the human body, he's an Ayurvedic doctor also by profession. That's also how he views bodily health, that the body heals itself. We have to stop exploiting it and we have to aid it in its existing processes. That's what he's saying the approach will also have to be for this planet. Whether we have gone past the tipping point or not, either way, what we're meant to be doing right now is to stop exploiting it further. Then we can think about how much the earth may or may not be capable of replenishing itself and of rejuvenating once again. It doesn't change the fact that we need to stop exploiting, basically.
ये तो हुई एक तो धरती का ताप, समुद्र।
Okay, I think he's going to move on to the next topic, and it's already past 8. So let's pause here. Anything to talk about or share or discuss?
Not as such, but it gives me a nice positive feeling, this approach of abundance overall, about creating resources rather than which is also fine, but like it puts people off. It's harder narrative, like limiting. It gives you a sense of limiting, okay, all preservation, and then not very easy to implement. But I think I personally feel more motivated if we look at from an approach of creating more thoughtfully rather than mindlessly. So creating abundance for everybody, but thoughtfully, and not like limiting ourselves that, okay, we can do only this much with this much energy, because that neither I feel happens, neither it's very exciting. It brings a life of which is ideally a nice life, but you know how the design is right now, that yeah, you want to eat good food, but healthy food, but also nice food, and not all the time only healthy kind of stuff. So I think that abundance, overall, the concept of creating thoughtful solutions is much more elevating to me than the idea of preservation only. So yes, I really like it. It's very exciting.
Yeah, I agree. Actually, it seems like a much more hopeful and much more doable place to start. And because I think in some ways, like whatever we are using or we are doing, we're doing it because we feel some lack, maybe, or feel some need, whatever it is that's making us do it. So to actually not have that need met, will only cause like it to kind of come out in some other form. It won't be sustainable.
Yeah.
Whereas if you start with something that can heal the earth and start with more responsible resources or responsible uses, then hopefully in the process of we can do that alongside, and then hopefully as we get kind of more filled with understanding and humanity ourselves, we may not, some of those things might drop away. The need for say excess sensory pleasures, they might drop away, and when they drop away organically, then they will not. It will not be a kind of deprivation based thing. It will be a kind of a natural outcome, which will then be will feel nice, and also it'll help us in our relationships with each other. So I feel it also makes more sense in a kind of what is just or what feels, because you can't deprive anyone else, and it doesn't feel good, and it isn't experienced as good either.
Yeah. I think in coming together to work on these solutions also, as you're saying, we end up, getting at least glimpses of what it is that we have been lacking, which is very different from going the minimalist way. And it's not that I'm saying that I don't believe that we need to really take a clear look at how we consume and why we consume and what we consume. But maybe that is a natural side effect of fulfilling certain needs. So the unnecessary sheds off when you get access to what is needed, rather than trying really hard to shed something without having an alternative in its place. That's very important.
And it should, like Pashwa also said, naturally. It just when it shouldn't come from a deprivation or from a theoretical, like a moral high ground that I shouldn't,
Ideal.
but I'm depriving myself of something, because that puts you in a very poor mind state and poor mental health. So it should come from, it is naturally, you happily don't want it because you feel fulfilled.
Yeah, I agree.
And energy is very different in people, even in right now, if we look at people around us, I think people who are doing it, like living a very minimalistic or thoughtful life on a basis of theory or what they believe in virtuistically, I've seen some of them deeply miserable, but in their day-to-day lives, or people who are naturally living very simple life, but they don't do it out of any theory driving them or any righteous sense, but more like naturally, are way more happier. So
Yeah.
Like it should happen naturally, is what I feel.
Yeah, naturally being, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with theory, but if it's just some theory, I think that's a problem.
Like
Whereas,
from within you that you believe in happily.
yeah, I think from when it's coming from a clear identification of your needs. Okay, this is all I need, and I have more than that. It's even then what is less compared to someone else will be an abundance for them. I think what is important here is abundance. This sense of I have more than I need. For that, we need to know what I need. So if someone has made up a whole long list of what we need, then an abundance mindset would still require that needs to be ensured. But in ensuring that, we can also do it in a better way. And in doing it in a better way, like Pashwa Didi is saying, while we're doing it, we can actually naturally come to realize that, oh, we maybe didn't need all this. What we needed is already getting fulfilled from other sources. So we can actually very easily reduce what we thought we needed. I also find it really hopeful. Manju ji? Okay. Anything else? Pashwa Devi?
No, I think I'm good.
Okay. All right. Let's.
I think also, I mean, it's just the last thing is that, it's quite interesting to also imagine this thing that actually how we are very similar to the earth in the sense that we have this capacity to kind of, balance ourselves and balance our temperature and balance our, so actually it just kind of shows you again how at the small level and the larger level, the mechanisms are quite similar, that the earth can regulate itself. And actually in the same way that if we throw the earth off kilter because we don't allow it to have the things it needs to balance it, just like when we abuse our bodies in a way and cause some imbalance, then it also gets sick. So it's a very similar kind of parallel. So I thought that was kind of interesting also to
Yeah,
hear and just remember.
yeah, yeah. It's really.
Sorry, go on.
Prachi, no, you said.
And I'm saying, and that's why it starts from first Swayam Vyavastha even to bring in outside Vyavastha, because it's same. So first you can learn on your own body, your own surroundings. And then if you understand it, then you can easily go out and do it
Yeah,
in more balance. And because at the end of the day, it's the same thing.
principle. Yeah.
You have power to apply it, practice it on your own first. And if you achieve it, you can go out and do wonders.
Yeah, I find that quite heartening because also it makes it so accessible. No, it feels like, oh, I can understand my body, so I can understand the earth also. In the sense that it's not a very out of reach, super specialized thing to have to understand planet and planetary balance. Just like even understanding your own body is not a very out of reach, super specialized thing. Of course, there will be people who will be more specialized than your average person, but each of us, even with the samanya buddhi, like he said, even with the very uh, average intellect, can understand this much.
And it's not one is to that one factor. Everyone can. And it's not dependent on anyone. Like everyone has a gift of body. So you don't
Yeah,
have to go out and seek, collect anything. Now it's on your power, capacity, journey of understanding your body can be longer, slower, depending on what is your own pace and what is your capacity. But you are not dependent. You are independent. Like you can do it. Everyone can do it. It's not like one person's privilege or only few can do it.
yeah, we're all empowered. And we learn from each other. Actually, it's been a whole humankind's journey of building this understanding. But it makes it easier and easier for each of us to understand in our own right.
Yeah. That makes it less abstract. And also I think this whole thing where the experts know best is always disempowering for us. And actually, because we want to know everything, actually we want to be in have the understanding to navigate our lives. It never feels nice when we feel like, oh, the experts know best, because we've heard it so many times, but it just feels kind of incomplete and kind of unsatisfactory. And so here he's giving us an analogy which we can all, even the lay person can relate to, and can it takes the abstract and the kind of expertness out of it.
Yeah.
Which is actually also the nature of understanding that everyone can have access to it. So, and without having to study science or chemistry or things like that. So it's
Or that it
also
can be
heartening in that sense
explained. Like he explained it.
that it can.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, in the sense that we don't, what I was trying to say was, it's not that we don't have to study science and all this. He's saying that we have to study, but that study is not out of reach. It's not overly complicated. As long as the teacher knows what they're talking about, it's easily explained. Just like he explained this so easily with simple analogies, going from what was already known to every lay person to something a little bit more unknown. That is what the kind of pedagogy that always works. But it reminds me also of that section from Manav Vyavahar Darshan, from the chapter called Liberation from Mysteries, is that the reason we find unsettled with this whole expert thing, ki, oh, the experts know it, but I don't, is because I need to live with it, and yet it's still a mystery to me. But then how he defines mystery in that chapter is, uh, one of the parts of it is that when we are unable to convey our understanding, that is what mystery is. Or when we don't have understanding to begin with, that is also mystery. So if someone is an expert, then they should be able to convey that understanding that they have to everyone else, because all understanding is conveyable, is what he's saying, and easily conveyable to anyone.
Yeah.
That's interesting. interesting point.
Yeah. It's like not having access to that information or not being able to have access to it is more dissatisfying or equally like puts us off. Then even if it is something you can have access to, you feel nice. But it's only they know, certain people can know, is more hard. Ki it is out of your reach.
Yeah.
What book is this? This mystery where you're saying it defined?
Oh, this is Manav Vyavahar Darshan, or holistic view of human conduct, the human behavior. This is a session that is ongoing on every Tuesday and Saturday. So yeah, we haven't reached that chapter, but in some conversation, we had talked about it.
Is this a book you shared with us, the PDF? Or this is different?
I can't remember. I don't think I shared this, but I can.
I want to now get back to it a little more seriously, finally, because it has. I have like just lost track of it in last 1 month, 1.5 month.
Yeah, you were also shifting and all. So. Yeah. So yeah, I can share that with you. Manjuji attends that session regularly. Pashaji also quite often. In that we're just going little by little. It's a translation of the Hindi book, and one presenter presents for 2 sessions or so, and they do their section, and then the next presenter comes and explains the next section, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Manjuji, you were saying something, I think.
No,
Okay.
I know I went unmuted to say something. I don't know.
Okay. If you remember, just write it down. Okay, it'll come back in its own time. All right, so then let's meet tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, good night.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks. Good
Bye.
night.
Bye-bye. Good night, everyone.